From Tokyo, Japan and Abu Dhabi, UAE, this is Down to Business English, business news to improve your business English, with your hosts Skip Montreux and Dez Morgan.
Hello, Skip. How are things with you over there in Japan?
Oh, don't ask. I'm still burning the candle at both ends, trying to keep up with everything at work.
Still really busy, are you? I thought things would have slowed down for you a bit by now.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the first quarter of this year has been the busiest I have ever experienced.
Oh, is that right? Well, business must be good then.
I wish. But the problem is more to do with a lack of manpower than anything else.
Chronic complaint of any mid-sized company.
I suppose. Maybe by the end of the summer, things will have slowed down a little bit for me.
I hope so, as Japan is hosting a pretty important world event in September.
Really? I don't think so, Dez. The Tokyo Olympics are next year.
They are, but I'm referring to something else.
You've got me.
The Rugby World Cup.
Oh, I thought it was something important. Rugby is that game that's a little like American football, but without all of the equipment.
Ugh, don't be so sarcastic. You very well know what rugby is.
Yes, I do know what rugby is. It's pretty popular over here, but I personally don't follow it.
What's interesting about this year's World Cup in Japan is that many of the matches are being played in the same stadiums that were built for the Soccer World Cup in 2002. So the tournament is not just being played in the big cities.
Do you know if they are, by any chance, using the International Stadium in Yokohama? That is where the soccer final was held in 2002.
As a matter of fact, yes. The rugby final will be played there as well.
I've never actually been to that stadium, but I hear it is quite a comfortable venue.
I once took a motorbike trip around Japan and couldn't believe the size of the stadium in Toyota City.
Ah, the city where almost everyone works for the car maker Toyota.
Yeah, just like Eindhoven.
Oh, I know Eindhoven, but you might want to explain it to our listeners.
Eindhoven is a city in Holland and is the birthplace of Philips Electronics. Just like Toyota City, most people in Eindhoven work for Philips.
Well, that is a city that I would like to visit someday.
Really? Is Philips our topic for today, Skip?
No, it isn't. I'd just like to visit Holland again someday. I traveled to Amsterdam many years ago and really enjoyed it.
I'm sure you did. So if we aren't talking about Philips today, are we talking about Toyota?
That's right. As one of Japan's most venerable corporations and one of the most successful companies in history, I thought it would be good to take a look at what they are up to these days.
Sounds great.
So let's do it. Let's get D2B. Down to business with Toyota. What have they been doing recently? Who have they been working with? And what are they planning for the future?
There's one thing I can say about Toyota without hesitation. They do make nice cars. I especially like the sports car they introduced a few years ago, but I forget, what's it called?
I think you are talking about the Toyota 86.
That's it, the Toyota 86.
Did you know the Toyota 86 was actually a joint venture with Subaru?
I didn't, but now that you mention it, I have seen a Subaru that looks very similar to the 86.
Well, by very similar, I think you mean almost identical. As this was a joint project between the two manufacturers, Subaru makes the engines and Toyota makes just about everything else.
Why did they choose to work together? I mean, both are Japanese companies, of course, but Subaru is so much smaller than Toyota.
Mostly to save on development costs.
Sounds similar to what Nissan and Renault did.
In some ways, yes. Car making is such a cutthroat business that any advantage is welcome.
I guess, but aren't the Toyota and the Subaru also direct competitors in the marketplace?
True, but as I said, Subaru is a much smaller company. Toyota must have been of the opinion that the savings and development costs outweighed any negatives that would stem from competition from a smaller player.
Yeah, makes sense, I suppose.
However, Toyota has also been working on another sports car project with a different partner as well. Would you like to venture a guess as to who that might be?
Sports car. Let me think. I want to say Nissan, but nah, it's too obvious. I'm going to say Honda?
Nope. In fact, I don't think you will guess this one.
Ford?
No, not Ford.
Tesla?
Oh, you're grasping at straws now.
All right, who are they partnering with?
BMW.
Really? That is a surprise.
And did you hear that Toyota was bringing back the Supra?
I haven't, but that is good news. I remember the old Supra from the 90s. It was such an iconic car.
Well, this summer, Toyota will be bringing out the first new supermodel in 17 years, designed in partnership with the one and only Bavarian Motor Works, BMW.
I wonder how that tie-up came about.
Apparently, it was BMW's idea. In 2012, at a launch event for the Toyota 86, BMW approached Toyota and suggested the collaboration. Toyota had been considering a big brother model for the 86, so this suggestion went down well with Toyota management.
I'm guessing that it will be out of my price range.
Well, according to Toyota CEO Akio Toyoda, the price will be fairly high and the company is not expecting to sell very many. He described it as a low-volume car for enthusiasts that will create a good image. Toyota is hoping that it will have a trickle-down effect on the other cars in their product range.
What about BMW? What are they getting out of the deal?
The latest generation of BMW Z4 will be based on this collaboration. Interestingly, the chief engineer of the Super project, Tetsuya Tada, said that working with BMW was much more difficult than the earlier project with Subaru.
I guess because of language and cultural differences?
I am sure that both of those were contributing factors as well. But the main difficulty was pride.
Pride?
Both the German and the Japanese engineers were very proud of the products they were designing, and neither party wanted to take the input of the other.
Yeah, I can see that happening. But it looks like they got there in the end, though.
They did, and Tada also commented that both parties learned a lot in the process. Apparently, he was very impressed with how much time and money BMW was willing to spend on research and development in order to design the best car that they could.
What about the other way around? Did BMW learn anything?
BMW was impressed by the lengths that Toyota would go in order to ensure strict levels of quality control were being kept.
German engineers impressed by quality control. Well, that's not an easy feat.
I suppose not. However, the biggest surprise for Tada was how BMW would design all of the mechanics first and only then dictate the dimensions of the body.
Toyota doesn't do that?
No, Toyota starts out with the design of the body and then fits the mechanics within that shape or those specifications. The completely exact opposite approach.
Well, Toyota has been pretty busy recently, it would seem.
Yes. But there is one more partnership that they are involved in that I would like to discuss.
Who's this one with?
This one is less of a surprise. Suzuki.
Really? I find that more surprising. It's difficult to find any synergies for Toyota in that deal. What with Toyota being the bigger, more experienced company?
In one word, and it is a big word, India.
Ha! You're saying that Suzuki has a big presence in the Indian market?
Yes, and it has had a big presence there for quite some time through its partnership with Maruti. Toyota also has a factory in India where they build a lot of their light trucks and vans, but hasn't been in the Indian market for anywhere near as long as Suzuki.
I see. So, Skip, do you think this is a big deal?
Potentially the biggest of these three projects, as Toyota plans to rebadge Maruti Suzuki's Vitara Brezza and Baleno models, which are pretty big sellers in India, and in return, Suzuki will rebadge the Toyota Corolla as a Suzuki.
Wow, that is big news. All of those models, but especially the Corolla, are big sellers here in the Middle East and in Africa.
Initially, the two manufacturers will just rebadge each other's vehicles. But this is just the beginning. The next step in the process is for Toyota and Suzuki to exchange technology. Toyota is planning to take Suzuki's Global C platform, which it uses on the four-door Ciaz Saloon, and then use this to launch a new Toyota model for the Indian market.
And in return?
Toyota will help Suzuki develop hybrid electric models.
Sounds like a reasonable trade for both companies.
Hopefully, the advantages will trickle down to the customer in lower prices, higher quality, and better designs.
Well, if anyone can deliver, Toyota can.
And their willingness to partner with the competition shows that Toyota certainly doesn't just rest on their laurels. If they see something missing in the marketplace, they try to fill it, even if it means working with a competitor to do so.
And not just that, they listen to their customers as well. A few years ago in the Middle East, they were on the verge of discontinuing a very popular Land Cruiser pickup model. But customers begged them not to, and Toyota listened. To this day, it's still going strong.
Interesting. No one can accuse Toyota of being a heartless corporation.
That they are not. Anyway, I think it's about time for us to get D2V down to vocabulary.
Down to Business English audio scripts are a great learning tool. Be sure to visit the D2B website and download your free audio script of today's podcast. downtobusinessenglish.com. That's www.downtobusinessenglish.com.
I will start off with the two-part adjective cutthroat, which is usually used in a business context to mean highly competitive.
A very violent but effective adjective. Competition that is so strong that everyone is trying to kill each other.
In the story, Skip commented that car manufacturing was a cutthroat business to show just how competitive it really is.
In today's competitive world, I guess all business sectors are cutthroat. Although, one that springs to mind as being especially cutthroat is the defense industry. The amount of money involved is huge, and the products could quite literally be competing with each other.
Ooh, a sobering thought.
Indeed. Next up, we have another adjective, iconic, which means to be a symbol of the group that it represents. A symbol that is widely recognized.
Everyone knows the iconic Rolling Stones logo of red lips and tongue, or the iconic golden arches of McDonald's, just to give a couple of examples.
In the story, Dez commented that the Toyota Supra was iconic as it was the ultimate representative of 1990s Japanese sports cars.
The Supra was featured in the Fast and the Furious films, which made it an even more iconic car.
It was? I didn't know that. I can honestly say that I have never seen even one of those movies. I never could understand the appeal.
Well, to each his own, I suppose. Anyway, the noun form, icon, is also commonly used. The coloured iMac from the 1990s became a real icon of that era of home computers, as no one had really thought before about making computers attractive.
They are really collectible now.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
I have two blue 1998 iMacs sitting in my closet at this very moment. I hope they are worth something someday.
Well, moving on, our next item is the multi-part noun, the trickle-down effect, which is when an action at the top makes its way down to the bottom. In the story, Skip reports that Toyota hopes the image of the sporty but very expensive Supra will trickle down and have a positive effect on the entire range of Toyota cars.
There is an economic theory called trickle-down economics. This theory, which is held by many right-wing conservatives, says that if you cut taxes on the rich, they would instead spend those tax savings on goods and services. This spending would then stimulate the economy, and the positive effect would eventually trickle down to people with less wealth.
Makes some sense, I guess.
Well, except for the fact that it has been proven time and time again not to work. It is more of a fallacy and is just a way for the rich to argue for lower taxes. But don't get me started on that.
Okay, what's our next word?
Next is the noun synergy. Synergy is when two companies work together at something to produce a result that neither party could have achieved on their own. And that result has a benefit to both organizations. In the story, Dez actually questioned whether the deal between Toyota and Suzuki would produce synergies that would be beneficial for Toyota.
And you certainly pointed out that there would be. An example of synergy that you often hear is when two companies merge, and that newly created company can employ less staff and still get the job done.
So the word synergy is a positive word for executives, but often unpopular with mid-level managers and staff.
True enough. Our final word today is a pretty simple one, the verb to rebadge. If we break that down, the prefix re means again, and the root badge means to attach the maker's badge or symbol to a product. In the story, Skip talks about how Suzuki and Toyota will sell each other's cars, but will attach their own badge to the vehicle.
Rebadging happens more often than you might think. There are several GM models that are Chevrolets in one country, Vauxhalls in another, and Opel in yet another country.
You see, that happens a lot in Europe. Exactly the same car, different name. What is a Vauxhall in the UK is an Opel in Germany. Sometimes they even sell both in one market with different trim levels. The Vauxhall Astra Chevrolet Cruze is an example, with the Cruze being the budget model and the Vauxhall...
Wow! Where do you find enough room in your head to store all that kind of trivial information?
Would you like to support Down to Business English? Be sure to visit the D2B page in iTunes and subscribe to this show. While you are there, why don't you leave a rating and a comment? This will help D2B reach more people wanting to improve their business English skills. Down to Business English. Business news to improve your business English.